which means that I'm going to switch this over and switch to input 2, and we've got this. And today it's in honor of landing on someone else's planet and flying a drone around it. We have 1953's The War of the Worlds, which is a science fiction film from the 1950s, but it's based on the H.G. Wells novel of the same name, which was published in 1898. And the novel is based in England in the Victorian days, which is reflected in the music project of the mid-1980s of the same name, by the way. However, for this 1953 American film, the story is now based in America. An atomic scientist, Dr. Clayton Forrester, lives in a town where a large meteorite crashes to Earth, hence a meteorite, whereas if it burnt up in the atmosphere, it would be a meteor. At the impact site, he meets Sylvia Van Buren, a science type of lady. And during the night, a hatch in the object that lands opens, and there's a surprising lack of any kind of security around the object. A few locals are interested in it, but other than that, it just seems like a run-of-the-mill huge meteorite that poses no threat whatsoever. However, a small handful of guards posted at the site are soon vaporized, and after that, the military take it seriously. And anyway, there's more of these things that have landed around the world, and they're causing mayhem. Sylvia's uncle is a pastor, and he tries to make peace with the vaporizing alien creatures emerging from the meteorite, but he is vaporized. And the aliens have advanced weapons against our puny intellects, and in their hovering vehicles, they easily override the military to go on their way vaporizing things all over the place. Soon mayhem and pandemonium break loose. Clayton and Sylvia find themselves in a farmhouse, where they manage to sever a Martian's probe camera and also take a blood sample from the creature. By then, the world is suffering huge damage all over, and even an atom bomb doesn't stop them. In 1938, Orson Welles narrated a now famous radio broadcast which went out on Halloween on a Sunday evening, causing an amount of panic. The amount of panic is actually often overstated. Not that many people actually heard the broadcast, but since then it has grown. The final third of the 1953 film, this one, was originally planned to be shot in 3D. The heat ray was framage of a spray welding blowtorch being blown by a fan, and it was composited onto the Martian vehicle model framage. So that anytime you see a heat ray, that's a spray welding blowtorch. The film was originally shot on 3-strip Technicolor, but as this degrades, doesn't last very long, the film copies were transferred to Eastman Color Film. Now, this film was more recent and advanced, so the wires holding the models actually show up, whereas in the 3-strip Technicolor, they didn't show up at all. And this became even more the case as it was transferred to high-definition video, making the special effects look worse now than they did at time of release. So people look at it now and think, those special effects are not very good. Actually, they were at the time in its original medium. In 2018, a fully restored 4K transfer from the original 3-strip Technicolor was released on iTunes, and in July 2020, last year, it was reissued on Blu-ray and DVD from that same 4K remaster. There's a brief flash of Woody Woodpecker in the centre of the frame in the treetops as the first meteorite crashes. And this is because producer George Powell was best friends with Walter Lanz, creator of Woody Woodpecker, so he put it in. There are differences between the film and the book. The Martians die within 3 days in the film. In the book, it's more like 3 weeks. The Martian creatures themselves are totally different to the book. The book's war machines are tripods, not levitating manta ray vehicles. But the manta ray vehicles are actually supposed to have 3 invisible legs of energy. But as they're invisible, you don't see them. And they did agonize over how they're going to portray these invisible legs. And they realized that it's a bit dangerous making them look like they give electric shocks every time they land. So that you only see it in a tiny piece, but it's implicit that there are invisible legs. The book centres around a writer, whereas in the film it's a scientist. And some of the sound effects used for the green ray, what they call a skeleton beam, were reused for some episodes of the original series of Star Trek. The sound of the heat rays was a mix of 3 electric guitars backwards. Much of the dynamic edge of the film played on the paranoia circulating at the time due to the threat of an atomic war in the 1950s. And in 2005, Steven Spielberg made another War of the Worlds film, minus the in the title, The 1953 one is The War of the Worlds. And this was much more based on the novel than it was the 1953 film. However, the two lead characters in the 1953 film, Jean Barry, who plays Dr. Clayton Forrester, and Anne Robinson, who plays Sylvia Van Buren, now much older in the 2005 Spielberg remake, make cameo appearances in a scene towards the end here. And, okay, 1953, War of the Worlds, to celebrate our landing on Mars. Have a very good weekend. Thank you very much, everyone.